This week on the OneCast, we're going to start talking about the northern swing of tournament fishing. We're going to talk about a little bit of stuff coming up at ICast, and we're going to talk about some of the fishing we've been doing.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Yeah. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What's going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to the OneCast for another weekly episode. We're not really calling them episodes. So weekly chat, however you want to look at it. As always, Pete here with Trey and Ben in the studio talking about northern fisheries, about a swing heading up north. We've been talking about, we've had some guests on. We've had MPFL in here. We had Fish Tips on last week. We had Mitch Elsey, NPFL angler, between the NPFL and the Fish Tips episode. So we just wanted to come in and talk a little bit about the fishing that we've been doing, talk about some upcoming tournaments. But as always, make sure you head to OneCastFishing.com. Check out the line of snagless jigs, long neck hooks, the weedless nets. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word, at checkout to save 10% off your order. Get you some jigs and some other stuff, and give those a shot. We've been talking about a bunch of partners. They're all linked below. Veteran organizations that we're doing some free advertisement stuff for. Make sure you check those out. We're going to go into more detail. I'm not going to go into it every week, but make sure you check those guys out in the links below in the description of this week's episode. So, Ben, Trey, what you got?
Well, first of all, how was everyone's 4th of July?
It was excellent. Our neighbor puts on the greatest fireworks show I have ever seen. So his name's Pat. He's getting his license and all. And it's our little HOA community puts on a show too. We didn't even go last night because this show was 45 minutes long. I'm talking like the full aerial. He goes out of state to get his stuff, and it's absolutely. It was a phenomenal event on Sunday night. So I'm super impressed that a resident put together a show like that. So
I'll tell you, man. Like every state I've lived in, whether it was Michigan, Tennessee, or here, I've always been in a state where you can't buy projectile fireworks. Yeah. It's super frustrating because you want to go and you want to get those mortars and you want to fire them off and stuff. And but we celebrated 4th of July here, and we just did like the basic, fireworks that you buy from the little shops and stuff like that. But I think more importantly is, it's America's birthday, and it's a great way to celebrate with friends and family. Get some good barbecue in and stuff like that, and also take some time to be thankful for what we have. And speaking of what we have some awesome fishing coming up in the north by some of the national level tournaments. But we also have ICast coming up.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know, ICast is held annually. And OneCast Fishing last year attended ICast for the first time, and it was a pretty cool deal.
And it's going on right now.
It is going on right now. So one of the cool things before we kind of jump into like anything ICast related, like baits and stuff, but ICast every year holds their ICast Cup, and it's a 4-hour fishing tournament. And at the end of the tournament, the winners get to take the coveted ICast Cup trophy home. The business, right? The business gets to host that that trophy in their headquarters building, and I think that trophy is passed around every single year. But that's a pretty cool deal, and that's held on Lake Toho. And I know I talked about it in the previous episode, but I just came back from Kissimmee and fished some Lake Toho. And man, I'll tell you what, if the fishing's right down there, like you're going to see some big bass caught at the ICast Cup. And I know that the national level tours, they make sure that they don't schedule their tournaments on the same weekend same week and weekend as ICast. But it's a pretty cool deal. So there's some new stuff coming out, and that's where all the vendors get together every year, and they push out new product and stuff. And Pete, you want to talk a little bit about some of the products that you see coming out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of baits. I don't know. There's nothing that I'm super excited about.
I mean,
the usual hard baits. There is American Bait Works has a hollow bodied popper, which I'm kind of intrigued about because there's days when they don't want to eat a frog. With that big profile, and even the smaller profile frogs are getting more popular.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be an interesting thing to throw in the mix if you fish heavy vegetation, and that's your thing. Spro has a couple bigger swim baits coming out that kind of intrigue me. Other than that, it's sort of the normal stuff. Strike King ripping off the rock crawler and coming out with the gravel dog.
You know, Pete says ripping off. So what Pete's going through right now, because we're recording this before ICast. So up on Bassmaster, they've got the new product showcase preview here. And what we learned last year down at ICast is that there's a lot of new products that never even make it onto Bassmaster's website, onto Wired to Fish, right? And we're not going to get into the behind the scenes as to why that is. So I encourage you, everyone out there, to download the ICast 2023 app. You can download it now. I just updated it from last year. They don't have the new products up. It will probably be Tuesday or Wednesday they'll put the new products. But every single company who introduces products in the new product showcase, they'll be on that app. Yep. So there's a lot of cool stuff that never even gets shown from smaller companies and all. That should, everyone should definitely take a look at because it might pique your interest.
I think it'll be should be Wednesday that goes up because I think Tuesday night is when they do the media unveiling of all the new product showcase, and they put it up after that. So, yeah, like Ben said, make sure you download that app. You can get I don't want to call it a sneak preview, but you'll get a preview of the stuff that's coming. That's kind of when all the NDAs around stuff drop, and you're able to get that information on the new stuff coming out. One of the things that is kind of cool that is coming out is Rapala has a line of soft plastics coming out, which is, we were talking, I've never seen Rapala soft plastics. We jumped on their website and they still just have the hard baits up there. So that's kind of cool. They're doing that. I have a feeling that was probably some pressure from some anglers that fish Rapala and they want to, streamline their whatever their sponsorship deals or whatever, just to make it all one-stop shop. So they got some pretty cool baits. We saw Jacob Wheeler win an event. Which event did he win? That was not Cayuga.
No.
The one before Cayuga. I can't remember where they were fishing. I'd have to go back and.
He was Demiki rigging
He was Demiki rigging that new. They're calling it the Crush City freeloader that looks a little bit like a spunk shad.
Yeah.
From Hog Farmer. I know it's a little bit different profile, but so we had a little sneak peek that was coming. But there's some other stuff on there they've got coming out. Again, if you go to Bassmaster's website, they got a list of the things there. Sprog has the Mega John, which my buddy John Cruz helped design. So sort of like a mag draft, but a little bit different profile. He's been really impressed with it. I know he's caught a bunch of fish. It's been on the side of his boat all year, but he hasn't been able to tell people what it was. So now that it's kind of out there,
I'm sure the Berkeley Coal Shad will be up.
Yep.
I didn't see it on the list, but I'm sure it will be entered in too because you can't I
can't remember when they put that up for sale, but
you can't even get them yet.
You can.
They just came out.
No, the first batch was like March, I think, because they just recalled the first batch. They're giving everybody a one to replace one.
That's right. They came out. They came out at the Classic.
They weren't happy with so it would have been March.
Yeah, March, which is fine as long as a product is in that calendar year. So as long as it's released in 2023, and a lot of folks probably already know that there'll be a bunch of product releases here. And you won't be able to get them to maybe November, December, or even next year. It shouldn't be as bad anymore because COVID, all the supply chains kind of alleviated. But sometimes it just takes a while for the stuff to filter out. What I'm interested in is the trolling motor wars.
Yeah.
So who is going to win between the new Quest, the new Ultrix from Minn Kota, or the new Power Pole?
That one's going to be. That'll be a tough one.
What's cool with the Quest is it's not just the Ultrix. So they have 3 motors entered in that category. You have the Tarova, the Altera, and the Ultrix all come in the Quest line, which gives you the enhanced GPS,
in brushless, right?
And they're brushless, 1224 volt. So it's kind of cool that there's 3 different trolling motors that fall into that. Garmin has the Kraken coming out, which I just saw today. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm not 100% sure what they've got going with that. Just looking at it real quick, it looks like longer shaft lengths are available, pivot style head. There's an integrated Garmin chart plotter now, so you can wirelessly connect with your Garmin's. And I think there's a built-in mount for the live scope transducer.
It starts at about 3,700, which
that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what all these new trolling motors are coming out with, that seems to be
you figure there.
Brushless
Ultrix Quest, you're looking at $36.99 to $41.99. So $4,200. I know the Move Power Pole's up around. I don't even see it on here.
I think that was like $5,000.
$4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah,
around $5,000 for the top of the line. So trolling motors are getting more expensive.
It makes me think what happened to the Force.
I don't know.
You know, because they came out with it, and Sam Flippin' Crickets had wanted a Force and he eventually went with an Ultrix because he couldn't get it forever. And where the Force came out 2 years ago, and
Like, you mean
the Garmin trolling motor?
Oh yeah, the Force.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Well, I know it's still there, but it's been 2 years, I think, since it came out. They didn't get them out right away. There were some issues with them.
Yeah.
So this is kind of maybe their second crack at a trolling motor.
So why are we? The reason we're seeing all this on a website is because ICast is not open to like the general public. You know, you either need to be a vendor or media or something like that. But these are some serious teasers. I think the thing when I look at all these baits and all these electronics and stuff, you know, a lot of people want to get them like first thing, and you know, if you can get your hands on them, like get your hands on them. Any bait that is different, that's not commonly thrown because of how much we educate the fish in our lakes, like try to get your hands on them.
Yep.
I will say, and this is just my personal opinion, when you start looking at like the first version of a new trolling motor or graph or something like that, you know, it's like anything. It's like when the Apache helicopter was first developed, there was a lot of things that needed to be worked out of that aircraft.
There's a lot of bugs.
And it was all electrical, of course, not really mechanical, but you know, just understand like as a consumer, like you're most likely going to deal with some issues, and I hope you don't, but
remember the Ultrix was the same way.
Same way. Yep.
Because they had, and I had one of the first ones, and it took 5 years for my board to go out finally, but one of the boards had a tendency to go out where you could not move the pedal anymore.
Yep.
And so they had to go back and waterproof and change a few things. But that was the very first iteration of the Ultra.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be something.
It's always funny when ICast is getting ready to come out, though, because you see the social media world explode, like all these, you know, professional anglers and stuff on their socials and stuff, like marketing, doing the job that they signed a contract to do. But you're going to see a lot of the stuff on there that you'd be like, oh man, that's just another bug, or that's just another crankbait or whatever. And it is, but these companies have to be competitive with other companies to stay in with the time. So ICast is going on. That's a cool deal.
Yeah, check out you'll have a ton of stuff coming out from there. So videos, TikToks, all that stuff. Your favorite anglers will be posting a bunch of stuff. Companies will be posting stuff. So follow along because it's always an exciting time.
The last thing I'll say, and I just think the coolest experience going down there with OneCast Fishing was just getting to meet everybody. Mm-hmm. Like just the inside of how, because this industry, they say it's big, but it's not that big. It's all about who you know, and a lot of these deals and stuff, they go down, you know, behind closed doors and stuff, as they should. That's how good business is usually done.
Yep.
But it was really cool seeing all the people down there. So any of these events, ICast, these major tournaments, these exposés, like they're cool places to go to. And if you're a small business wanting to get into the game, it's an opportunity for you to go down there as a small vendor. You're going to pay for it. Nothing's free. You're going to pay for it, but that's a good opportunity to get your claws in the backs of some of these people that actually have been in the fishing industry for a really long time. You know, it's all about who you know. So, but yeah, so ICast.
Yeah. We'll be back next year. I plan to go. I could have gone this year. I'm disappointed I'm not now. I didn't want to go, but now that I'm not going to go hang out with all my friends, I'm like, man, I messed up not going this year and taking the time off work and all that. So
yeah,
but I definitely plan to go next year. So we'll do the whole media thing and get it on it early. If it's in Orlando, it might. Who knows? They might shift it back to Vegas or something, and then I'm not. Doing that. I have no desire to go to Vegas.
I don't think they're going to do that.
No. I think it'll probably stay. It's been in Orlando for 3 years in a row now. They used to move it around like SHOT Show, where we go different places.
Yeah.
Now you see SHOT Shows pretty much just in Vegas. Big Rock, which is another big tackle deal with a distributor. They do theirs in Nashville on New Year's every year.
Yep.
And then I think you'll see ICast stay down there in Orlando. So yeah, if you get an opportunity for a company you work with, or like Trey say, a small business, check that out. Do it. I will say it's all business. So if you're just trying to find a way in there as a fan of fishing, I would not recommend spending your money and going down there, because you're not going to get in the door. Two, you're not really going to get time with the people that you want to meet and talk to. You'll see all of them running around, but they all have meetings scheduled every 30 minutes to an hour all day throughout the day. They're just running from place to place to place and shooting media and meeting with potential sponsors or current sponsors and all of that stuff. So
Here's the inside scoop. If you're not getting in because you're not a vendor or you're not media, just look at the restaurants that are right around the Orange County Convention Center. You can pretty much guarantee that there's going to be an after hours event, whether or not it's just eating or drinks or whatever. You might be able to run into some people. So I'm just saying. But speaking of tackle, Ben, I saw a post earlier. I don't know if you want to throw that in here, but OneCast Fishing's in a new tackle shop. Is that correct?
Yeah, a great segue there. I appreciate it. We're, actually, there's two I haven't mentioned. So in Ava, Missouri, at J Brothers in the hardware store, we're in there. And then last Friday, I took a bunch of tackle over to, it's called Tack and Tackle. It's over in Robbins, North Carolina. So it's a great place. The guy who owns it, he's Tim. His name's Tim. He took an old farmhouse and basically renovated it and converted it into both for tack for horses, right? Because it's as you guys know, about an hour west of here.
Yep.
And it's about an hour west from us. The horse. I don't know anything about equestrian, but the horse riders,
stuff.
right?
horse stuff.
The horse stuff. I'm a fisherman, not a cowboy.
That's right.
But so they've got that in there, and also a big section for tackle, and it's all tournament driven tackle. So he does no live baits. It's all soft plastics, hard baits, high quality reels, rods, that sort of thing. So it's a great place. It's in Robbins, North Carolina. So if you're out that way, it's about an hour west of here in Sanford. Yep. So it's a great little shop that just opened up in April.
I'm just thinking, right? Because this is what I do. I don't think but I think. Okay. I don't think well, but I think.
That's fair.
But you don't know anything about horses, but you know about fishing. What if you had tournament fishing on horseback around ponds? Dude. Come on.
Could you joust your opponent like if they were in the spot you wanted?
I don't know what that would look like, but I'm just saying, like, if you took I guess you could if you took like a cash and like heavy bait rod up there and you just jam somebody in. No, don't do that. But like that would be so cool. Like you run around, you're on a pond, I don't know, a few 100-acre pond, and you're just like, now I'm just going off on a tangent here, but I think it'd be good.
Logistical nightmare.
I just think it's fun. The only thing is you have to find someone.
Well,
up the poo.
Maybe we'll have to talk to Brad and Paul because they're looking for new and creative ways to do things with the NPFL. So, Brad and Paul, we know you listen. What about a horseback pond tournament?
That's
put
right.
You guys on horseback.
That's right.
And
you can buy all your tackle from Tack and Tackle, right?
Exactly. Tackle and your tack. You're
that's right. You got your equestrian subject matter expert, and then your artificial baits and stuff.
I don't know how many anglers are proficient at horseback riding. So
I don't know, but if they do it, I need to be out there with a camera because that's going to go down.
Absolutely.
To be honest, it'd be great for a sight fishing event.
Right?
It would. You'd be able to get up.
Could you imagine?
And that horse can go in the water too.
That's right. True. You think he's quieter than one of the new trolling motors coming out?
Tough to say.
Sounds like a good test.
Hey.
Speaking of tournament tackle, you did bring that up. I just want to real quick. MLF just wrapped up on St. Clair. Jordan Lee back raising another trophy.
Yep.
One of few guys to win back-to-back classics.
That's right.
Has been around for a long time. Had a couple little bit tougher years since the transition or the split, whatever you want to call it. It was that 2018 when we call it the split.
The great divorce.
The great divorce.
Schism.
The schism, yeah. He's had a few rough years. I know he won another BPT event early on, but always liked Jordan, man. Cool coming out of college, winning a classic.
Did you guys see his TikToks?
Yeah,
about
his TikToks.
About what happened at the hotel.
About the hotel, yeah.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't see it on TikTok, Jordan's got a pretty good presence, and he was I think it was for this last tournament.
Yep.
At St. Clair,
it was.
He was parked in the hotel. He unhooked his boat, had it so we could plug it in, and had his I think his truck over 2 spots, so then he could be able to pull out.
We had the boat over 2 and then the truck in 1. Because he parks in an angle. Because the way, if you think about a boat backed into a spot, you have, your line of spots here and then spots here. He parks at an angle and takes up 2 because if he parked straight on, he wouldn't be able to pull the boat out. So he parks 2 there, and then he has 1. And this was day 4 in the hotel.
And then the Hilton lady came out and said you can't do that anymore. And he's like, what are you talking about?
You can't go home, or you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, Jordan.
Yes. So he went across the street to the other hotel, and they're like, what is wrong with that?
I don't know.
You can do whatever you want here.
I mean, he does better than me because typically I just pull into 4 or 5 spots horizontal and ask them, hey, my boat's parked here. Do you got any issues? And they're like, oh, no, you're here.
Which, if you follow the saga, he went back the next day and walked over there, and there was a big box truck taking up 9 spaces right where he was parked.
Yes.
They pulled it and took up 9 spaces.
So whole buzzards aren't just on the water.
No, they're in parking lots too.
Apparently they're in hotels as well. That would make me upset. Like, I paid, like, you get what you pay for, but I mean, like, dude, it's in,
especially after 3 nights.
Well, and looking at the parking lot, even on his TikTok, it's not like it was full.
No,
like it wasn't a destination hotel for people to go stay at, especially during that time. So.
Oh, and the other thing, his propeller was over on the sidewalk.
Oh darn.
Let's be honest.
Just watch where you're going, people.
Yeah.
That part of Michigan's not really a destination outside of Fisherman anyway, unless you want to go check out 8 Mile and buy some crack down the road.
It's meth. Get it right.
Meth, okay. Sorry to anybody from Detroit that I offended.
It's okay. I'm from Michigan,
That's
so
right.
I can talk about it. And I agree with that statement. But, no, I mean, yeah, man. Like, and you know what? The prop, though, like, you know, that's an accident waiting to happen. But I mean, so are trailer hitches. So is everything else. I don't know. It's just so. Anyways, folks, like Jordan Lee, congratulations.
Yeah, awesome job, man.
1 of 3, like Pete said, back-to-back Bassmaster Classic winners, along with Rick Clunn and Kevin Van Dam. He is a steward of the profession. Like, he really is, and he's done a great job. So
don't forget about Hank Cherry.
Yeah, Hank now back-to-back.
Oh, that is, yeah.
So there's 4
I'm sorry, there's 4.
Yeah.
I was mistaken. See, I told you I think, but I don't
He's
think
from
that
North
well.
Carolina. He just, yeah, you're right.
Oh, my bad. Whatever. 4 of them. So
yeah. So Austin Jordan, just for anybody listening or didn't follow and is just hearing about that drama, if you do travel, take a boat, ask the hotel beforehand. Just clear it with them. That way you don't run into a situation where you're getting thrown out of the park. Out of the hotel at 2 in the afternoon.
I always ask just because I want to be like, where's the closest outlet at?
Where's an outlet?
And they've let me park in the front.
mhm.
Yeah.
Like, not because you got where you drive under, but just on the other side of that.
yeah.
They were like, just park right here and plug in. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I always ask, like, how's the crime? That's my first thing. And I've stayed in some shady hotels before.
Me too.
Yeah.
And listen, if you're thinking about going to fish Lake Norman in North Carolina, do not take your boat and stay at the Hilton off that main highway. It's in Morrisville. Literally, my window got broken out of my truck and all of my fishing tackle was stolen, along with a bunch of other people. So, like, hotels, you assume a lot of risk. So make sure that you have the proper security equipment, whether or not that's the locker bars, or you take everything inside your hotel with you. But that's a serious concern. I know it happens all the time to anglers on the road. And speaking of security concerns, and this is just for you local North Carolina folks, but I think it's happening all over the country, make sure you do your best to protect your catalytic converter underneath your vehicle, specifically bigger trucks, because people are stealing them on a daily basis here in North Carolina. I know it's happened 3 or 4 times in the parking lot at Cross Point Boat Ramp on Sharon Harris. And for those of you who don't know, that is Chatham County District jurisdiction, and they patrol there like once so often. So just be mindful of that. We've had some friends get their catalytic converter stolen. And Pete, you bought something for your truck, didn't you?
Yeah, I have a converter plate underneath there, so I got a 3/4 inch piece of steel bolted to the frame that blocks the catalytic converter.
Yeah. So be mindful, folks.
So we talked about MLF, Jordan Lee won, but the controversy around Cayuga, which was now 2 events ago. So St. Clair was the most recent one. Cayuga before that. Adrian Vina won. It's been about a month. Congrats to Adrian. That was his first win. He's a pretty cool dude. I met him when they were down here for heavy hitters. Talked to him for a little bit. He was actually fishing the marina on Jordan. And I rolled in there to get fuel because I had been just running around watching all the guys and whole buzzard in where the pros were catching fish and And he was in there during a break eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I talked to him during the break for a couple minutes. He was a super nice guy. So congrats to him there, but lots and lots of speculation and accusations in Cayuga. And it was 2 anglers. Matt Becker was one of them. And who was the other angler?
I think it was Spencer Sheffield.
That was it, Spencer Sheffield. So Matt Becker, the question was whether fish were hooked in the mouth or not. Was that Matty Becker or was that Spencer?
That's Spencer.
Spencer Sheffield,
Yeah.
You're right. So Spencer Sheffield was taking fish off the hook. And if we got these names wrong, feel free to correct us in the comments.
So let's back up for a minute. So, because we haven't discussed this as a group yet, and I know there were some rounds, and I know Luke Duncan talked about this as well, and he had a pretty strong stance. What happened here? So at Lake Cayuga, it turned into a smallmouth sight fishing event, and according to MLF rules, during a sight fishing event, you can't catch the same fish in the same day. You can't be sight fishing and catch the same fish. Also, during a sight fishing event, you have to show the marshal that the fish was hooked in the mouth.
Correct.
And not on the lip, not on the fin, right? Because the snagged fish do not count in a sight fishing event. And that's where the controversy comes from. Mm-hmm. Because there were multiple guys who caught the same fish, right? And it's on camera, right? And then there were anglers who caught fish who unhooked 5-pound small fish outside the gunwale of the boat, which no one does that with the back turned where the camera and the marshal can't see anybody and just holds up the unhooked fish and weighs them, right? And gets that weight counted.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wasn't there. None of us were there. But I will tell you, I usually believe half of what I see and nothing of what I hear. And I believed when I saw some of the video footage of certain anglers with their backs turned to the camera, acting like they were, unhooking a foul hooked salmon in the river system up in Wisconsin or Michigan, because you can't foul hook them there either. It looked absolutely malicious. It did. From any person that's not a bass tournament fishing fan wouldn't be the wiser.
Yeah.
But for those that have context in tournament bass fishing, I don't know of any bass tournament where you can foul hook a sight fish. I mean, that is at the club level all the way up to the national level. And at the club level, we all know, look, it happens. There's no marshal on the boat. At some of these other sanctioned events where there's no marshals on the boat, I'm sure it happens and people get away with it. But when the camera's on you and you're being televised and your back is turned and you legitimately break the bylaws of that national level organization and you can get away with it and turn around and fish the next event in St. Clair with no questions, to me, that is going to breed some serious doubt.
Yep.
And this is my issue with Major League Fishing. I mean, they said they're going to do an investigation, but it's been a month. Mm-hmm. And we're looking it up. Pete's trying to pull up stuff right now. Like, there's been nothing put out by Major League Fishing.
So the last statement they made is they're still reviewing footage, and that was 2 weeks ago.
And
we're at 4 weeks since the event.
And this is my problem with Major League Fishing, is that they have created a culture where anglers are willing to do some very fishy stuff.
Yeah.
Right, to make $100,000. Like, yeah. I understand the anglers pushing the limits, but that organization has allowed things to happen over the last 3 years, 4 years, ever since they've existed.
Yep.
That allow anglers to push the limits, right? And we could go down the list of all the controversies or scandals they've had, right?
Yep.
And it's right. They've gotten to a point where these anglers feel like they can do. I mean, they can almost intentionally on camera cheat, do some shady stuff.
Yeah.
So 4 of the top 10 they're saying were being investigated.
So,
and I know Matt Becker, Spencer Sheffield, and I know Takahiro had a question, and that was sort of what I think spurred everybody, because Takahiro had caught a fish, weighed it, released it, and this is all on video, released the fish, and then asked his official, can I catch that fish again? And he said, you can't knowingly catch the same fish again. And he goes, well, can I back off 100 feet and catch that fish again? And he said, well, you have to be able to beyond a reasonable doubt say you don't know for sure it was the same fish. And he goes, well, my guy yesterday told me that I could do that. So now there's no consistency with the officials. One told him the day before, and apparently the guy the day before called the tournament director and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And he goes, "As long as he can reasonably say that wasn't the same fish." But you're bed fishing, and that's what came. And I'm not gonna say who did what because I can't remember and I don't want to get it wrong. But Matt Becker, Spencer Sheffield, all their names came up for either hooking fish not in the mouth. One of them caught a fish clearly sight fishing in the morning, and then came back and caught it again in the afternoon. They needed 5.6 to upgrade or something like that, and the one they caught in the morning was 5.7. They run back to the exact same spot, catch a fish that's 5.6. And you can look on, there's a lay down in the background. You can see the stuff around. There's no doubt that it's the same fish.
And MLF should have no problem determining this.
No.
Because they've got waypoints and trackers on.
That's right.
When I listened to Luke's podcast about this, what I didn't think about, because I went and looked at the weights, I was like, man, if you would break this out over a 4-day tournament, there was a lot of century belts caught. But what he was saying was, which makes sense now, is that they're all catching the same fish. They're all, right, oh, score tracker went off. He just caught a 6-pounder. I saw him fishing over here. So 2 hours later, I'm going to roll over and
catch that 6-pounder.
Yeah.
Right. So if all those fish had to go to live, to a live weigh, like the weights would not be the same as they were.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, the elites fish down in Lake Fork, and they got to weigh and release the fish right on the spot. But I'm very confident in their rules as well. Like, you can't catch the same fish.
Even with the elites, you can guarantee that they're not catching the same fish because those fish aren't released the same day. Their fish care people put them in a tank. They rate. But what I'm saying is, like, there's no question in the elites if you have a century.
Texas Fest they do release.
Fork.
Well, some of them they weigh. Yeah, they have to.
Yeah,
weigh
if they're not over like 23 inches,
then
they can't bring.
You're right, because of the slot they allow them to weigh them. So that would be like if they were fishing hares.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
But
I see what you're saying.
This is the kind of stuff that deters a lot of people from looking at professional bass fishing.
Yeah.
As a profession.
No, it's not.
Right.
It's not necessarily bass fishing at all. It's a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't like the MLF and what they do.
Yeah.
I'll straight call out the MLF because you hear there's a very clear distinction when you talk to people that like fishing. It's like fans of one, fans. I like all fishing, but I'm not a fan of the MLF. I like the guys on there. There's a lot of good people. Some of them I consider friends. I'm not a fan of their format because exactly what Ben and you were saying. Like, it breeds an environment where there's an opportunity to take advantage of the system. And even though technically it might be legal, right? Like, I catch that fish on a bed and I come back later and I'm 100 foot off that bed, but I still know where that bed's at and I catch another fish that weighs an ounce less. I mean, morally, you got to be walking some shady ground because you know that's the same. You cannot sit here. If a man can sit across from me at a table, look me in the eye, and tell me that those two fish were different fish, I will tell him to his face he's a liar. Because when you're bed fishing and those big females, you catch them right off the bed, you're over the top of it, and you let her go. I've seen it fishing clearwater fisheries for smallmouth. I know when you let that girl go, she goes straight back to her bed.
Yep.
Largemouth do it a lot of times too. They'll go straight back. Sometimes they circle a little bit more. A smallmouth goes straight back to that bed. There's no looking for it. There's no hunting for it.
And look, I get the argument some people will make, like, as long as a fish tried to bite it, right, and it gets on the outside of the lips, then maybe it should count. But look, this sport is based upon integrity.
Yeah.
Right? All the way down, Trey, as you talk about at the club level, it's really on integrity because you have no marshal with you. But it's again, going back to golf, like, there's a lot of integrity involved, and at least in that sport, the other sport, they call it themselves out all the time. If they write a wrong scorecard or they do, I don't know all the rules. They accidentally touched the ball or they cleared it out wrong, right? We see that sometimes, right? And we've seen the stories about this before. Like, I think Lee Liverseed, I think Gerald Swindles talked about it. Like, they accidentally had 6 fish in the live well.
Yeah.
Right? And so they called the tournament director and, hey, I didn't, so they work it all out and stuff. So you call each other out. But the organizations have to hold people accountable, right? Because how do you expect people coming up and us, right? If we fish club tournaments and all, and you expect their integrity, but you won't even do it on camera when it's the biggest stakes?
And what's even more concerning is you talked about the organization and it's delegitimizing itself by doing stuff like this. 2 of those anglers are rookies on the BPT this year.
Yep.
So now you got 2 rookies that think it's and again, this is all speculation, right? But 2 rookies that came up through the invitationals that are now fishing the highest national level major league fishing event, and they're doing this stuff on live camera, right? Yeah. Listen, when you get a flag on the play on the field in football, NFL, it takes them about 10 seconds to review the footage, whether or not they got the first down or not, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
The fans are probably looking at this like we are looking at this and saying, how long does it take to look at a 10-second clip and determine whether or not it was legal or not legal, right? Yeah. And so it's just one of those things, like, if you keep doing this as an organization, you're going to continue to delegitimize the cause that you stand for. And the people that make it a championship route, they all get paid money.
Yep.
The lowest they get paid is like $3,745 all the way up to $100,000, right? They're all making money. So I'm not really sure what's going through the minds of these people when they get to this level. It's like, dude, if there was ever a time to be black and white and clear as crystal, it would be right then and there. You know?
It's something I heard, I forget exactly which podcast this was on or TikTok, but the theory was, so a lot of these events over the last 2 years have turned into forward-facing sonar events, and there's a few guys who are really good at this, and we keep seeing them doing well over and over again. With a sight fishing event like this, it becomes almost anybody's game.
Yeah.
And if it's anybody's game, there may be more, like, this may be some people's only chance, really, to do really well. And does that allow them to push the limits well beyond where they should?
If you believe that cheating in any event in the world is the way to get an advantage because you're weak in a certain area, then I don't want to be around you. Just go work harder. Don't cheat. And we heard it a million times in the Army. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And if you get caught, you weren't trying hard enough. No, that's not the case with this. These folks literally have thousands of people standing behind them that are rooting for them. And I feel like a lot of times it's like when you got a cheater that is blatantly doing it on television, like that is really letting a lot of those loyal followers down.
I feel like this is potentially an organization killer. Like, depending on how they handle the situation, and what if they try to brush it under the rug like they did with the information cheating with was it Sprague?
Yeah,
they got the information. They just kind of tried to hide that. Now the Jacob Wheeler, was it Jacob and Dustin that were 2 rods at once, and it was a state law violation. That was they took the ownership on that one, so I felt like they handled that right.
But I mean,
they had told the anglers they could.
Poor reflection on the organization. To not even know to brief them the wrong.
You're
thing.
Absolutely right. At the end of the day, now you have serious cheating allegations that violate your own tournament rules. And if you don't take it and handle it seriously, then it potentially is going to kill your organization. Because if I'm somebody that's fishing it doing the right way, why would I want to stay and fish when you're letting these guys get away with doing that?
And the last thing I want to add on this is that there is a difference between what we saw at this last tournament, at Cayuga, I guess 2 tournaments ago, with the shadiness involved, and then pushing the boundaries of something.
Sure.
So, like, things that Pochet's doing, I would argue a lot of ways are pushing the boundaries differently. That's not necessarily shady. I mean, there's arguments back and forth, right? And people have made that argument, but I think there is a difference. Like, if they have to make a rule because there's not a rule, well, you found a loophole. You did a good job of doing what you trying to find a competitive advantage. But blatantly disregarding the rules, for an advantage, it's a completely different story.
That's true. That's true.
It's going to be interesting. We talked about it way back early on in episodes. I say way back, like 6 months or so now. But what we would do if we had the reins for a day, and I said I would make I would make violations across the book. So you have some big names, you have up and coming names, you have guys that've been around for a while names. So we'll see how those punishments, if any, are doled out. I can tell you right now, if there's nothing done when it's clear as day to almost anybody that looks at the footage and they don't punish anybody, I won't watch an MLF event again. Like, I won't even waste my time. I won't even give them the viewer hours to tune in and watch it, because that's a trash can move, and you're just a trash can organization at that point.
It's really easy to set a precedent and nip it in the bud if you disqualify 3 or 4 people.
Yeah,
it is. And I'm taking we had him, and folks, if you haven't listened to one of our I think it was the 4th, 5th episode, I can't remember, where we had Kieran and his dad, Daryl, on. I'm taking him fishing tomorrow. And Kieran is one of those young aspiring anglers that wants to climb the industry ladder and move into the professional realm, whatever that means, right? Whether it's professional bass fishing or wherever his journey takes him. But it's those anglers that I'm concerned about. It's the thousands and thousands of high school anglers. It's the thousands of collegiate anglers. It's the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of it's not Toyota Series, but all those anglers trying to climb the ladder to get to that level. And then they see this kind of stuff happen. So does that mean that they're going to do it at the Pro-Am level? Or are they going to be deterred and not even want to fish with the organization anymore because they see that happening? Listen, if I'm giving you my money and you're allowing other people to take it, not earn it, then I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they got to DQ him from that event. They should take back any earnings from that event. So you're talking $45,000 to $16,000 you got to pay back to the organization. DQ him from that event. That takes away the Angler of the Year points. You end up with a 0. It basically ruins your season. That's going to take you out of contention for Angler of the Year, for Red Crest, for the heavy hitters, some of the other comp events where points and weights matter. So to me, that's the only answer here at this point. You didn't DQ him from the next event. You've got to go back and DQ him from that event
and pay the rest of that money out to the other competitors that did it the right way.
No, I think that's what they would do. Yeah. I would assume you would move everybody up and you would pay accordingly. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting, and I'm not sure. I know when a ruling, if ever one does come, we'll talk about it here and fill anybody in that doesn't follow any tournament fishing, because even if you don't like tournament fishing, it's still, I think, an interesting topic to think about and to hear about. So yeah, the cheating, the whole cheating scandal, we'll see what happens. Yeah, it brings back memories of Mike Long and snagging all those big fish out there in California, and that guy got canceled fast and hard, and everything he did went away. So we'll see what happens there. But speaking of tournament fishing, Ben wasn't on that fishing Friday. I think that was when it was your anniversary or you guys were camping. So our last fishing Friday, which was a couple weeks ago, with everything going on, we're going to be a little delayed with them. We're not going to have one this week. Maybe next week we'll get one out. But it's just been busy. Everybody's traveling, family vacations, fishing has been a thing. We did go live last weekend from the water, and we were all out there for a little bit. Everybody waited 10 minutes to tell me I didn't have any sound, but I won't knock any of our listeners for that. But one of the things they asked Trey and I that day was to record a tournament day and to talk about why we were doing things, the thought process that went into it, stuff like that. So Trey and I are amateurs at best, tournament fishermen. We're still learning. You're always learning. Even guys who've been doing it for 100 years, you're still learning. There's always stuff to learn, but neither of us are super comfortable going out there and filming during a tournament because we're focused on doing our thing. So what we did was we went out and as close as possible simulated it. I think it went well because I felt the pressure. I did everything like I normally would. So we went out with our plan. We followed our plan. We made our rotations. We did what we had to do. We put together a 5-fish limit, and we have them all but the final call on tape because it finally got so hot that all of our GoPros overheated, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was literally like the last 10 minutes we called before we made our run back to would have been weigh-in, and we caught one and the cameras were down for that last 10 minutes. So we're putting that together. We're going to do some voiceover stuff and just let folks know what we were doing. It'll be probably another week or so before we get that out because I'm not a video editor and we're learning as we go on putting stuff together. But looking forward to that. So if there's any of that type of stuff you want to see from Ben, Trey, myself, anybody, whether it's us together or individually, shoot us a comment on one of our posts, shoot us an email. You can message us on social media, whatever. Let us know stuff that you like to see because it's something we want to do. It's part of the vision for the OneCast is helping anglers and putting out educational stuff, but it's a lot easier to do that when you have a little bit of direction, because we have a ton of great ideas, but our ideas might not necessarily be what people want.
It's true.
And we don't want to be the folks just putting out a knot video on how to tie 15 different knots. And well, that stuff's good. I'd like to get more into the technical stuff we do. So let us know and look for that video to come out there. And we've been fishing a lot. Trey and I have been fishing a lot. Ben's been busy. with anniversaries and birthdays and product stuff for OneCast Fishing. Look for some stuff that we carry before the soft
I guess we could
plastics.
talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead
Yeah.
if you want to talk about.
Because hopefully by the time this airs, that we'll have the soft plastics. We're bringing them back to OneCast Fishing, so we're going to bring back the Stinger, the Black Hawk, the Warthog, which is our creature baits, swim baits. We're going to have some two or three additional designs as well as some additional colors. So, we've got some messages over the last few months asking for us to bring plastics back. We're finally bringing them back, and currently actually working on packaging them up. So hopefully by the time this is out, they'll be live on the website. So going back to that plug in the beginning, use the code TheOneCast and save 10% on some plastics too.
Yeah, check out the soft plastics. I really like the craw baits, especially because the way they're poured, there's a hollow cavity in basically what you would say, I guess, the nose or the face. And I like to squirt a little bit of scent in there, and it holds in there pretty well, and it helps you get bit and helps them hold on a little bit longer. So make sure you check that out. Like you said, OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, save 10%. So we did get out together, the three of us on Harris on Friday. What'll be 3 weeks ago now, so almost a month ago.
I did want to talk about that because what I found really interesting is that, so I jumped on Trey's boat. Pete came out there with his boat. Trey got out. He's been on the lake quite a bit. He had marked schools earlier. We knew where the schools were. We all ended up catching 1 or 2 largemouth each. But the problem was, like, you could see them on live scope. You could see them chasing shad visually when they come up on the surface. You could see big ones follow Pete's little ones back to the boat.
Yeah.
They were there. They just didn't really. They weren't super active. They weren't in a feeding mood, and it, with some of those days, it's the reason why they call it fishing and not catching.
That's right. I think, going back to Pete talking about like the simulated tournament we put together, and then talking about when we went out on the lake, the three of us, you can put a plan together the best you think, right? But like we say, another saying in the Army is no plan survives first contact. And that is so true with fishing. You can put a primary plan together, an alternate plan, a contingency plan, and an emergency plan. That's what I try to do. It's called PACE. But no matter what, if you're not paying attention to your surroundings, you're not paying attention to the fish, to the wind, to the sun, everything. There's so much that goes through your head. You're either going to be at the right place at the wrong time, or you're going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. And the day we were fishing, we were out there, looking at schools of fish in, 15 to 18 foot of water, and they very well could have been feeding. We very well could have been on the wrong school or the right school at the wrong time.
Yep.
And that, that's something we'll talk about this more in later episodes, but, we fished the river, right? Pete and I did that simulated tournament on the river. We turned around and went back to that river a week and a half later, and it was 180 degree difference with the same conditions almost. A little bit different water level. And I mean,
water level and clarity was the biggest thing. We had pretty much the same weather as far as temperature, wind, all of that. So it was definitely similar.
And then we go out on the lake, the three of us, and I had went out the day before.
You and I were out the night before.
The day before, yeah, hammering them. And you can hammer them because there's about 500 in some of these schools. So, but I guess the point is, for those of you fishing tournaments or just recreationally fishing, don't beat yourself up too badly when you go out there on what you would consider the perfect day with the perfect conditions, and you don't catch a whole lot. And I know a lot of people get really upset and frustrated about it, and to include myself, but you have to understand that, like, you're competing against a live creature.
Yeah.
It's not another person with a pigskin football. They're telling you either you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong.
It's important to remember those things to change. Like Trey talks about conditions not being that different, but looking, but hindsight's 2020. When you go back on Monday morning quarterback, like we went a week later, but the water had dropped 2.5 feet. It was getting closer to normal level. The current was pulling extremely hard because of lakes upstream dumping water into the river system. So like where we had caught them in the tournament, was the current was pulling so hard that those fish, they could have been set up somewhere in there, but it was hard to fish because the current was pulling so hard. So where they were the week before, they weren't there. We ended up catching them how we wanted to catch them from the beginning, and in on top water and the pads on frogs, and we caught a pile of fish. Trey lost a good one early in the morning.
There was at least 17 pounds.
It was like a 3 or 4 pounder. And then he ended up catching a 5, 10, 5.15, whatever it was, almost 6. So a great fish on a frog. And once we found it, man, we ran it. We caught him on a frog all night, but or all day till the storms rolled in, which is a whole. We can tell another story about storms.
Yeah.
And then Harris, the night before, nothing really changed. The wind was pretty much the same. Actually, the wind was better, I would have thought, for Friday because of the way it was pushing in the flat where we had caught it the night before. We're like, man, it's going to push that bait and everything up on this. They're going to come up and feed, and we're going to smash them.
You guys just caught all the dumb ones.
Yeah. That might have been what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, that very well could have been. But we caught, the day before, we had found a school that hadn't been molested because it was in kind of a weird spot. And Trey and I rolled up on that school and smashed them out of it. And then that school's just completely disappeared now. Like, we've been looking for it every time we go out there. And I have no idea where those fish went. Yeah. But the night before, there was 200 fish there, and we were whacking them. So fishing's fishawational. We talk about it all the time. Little things, the wind direction changes a couple degrees from a different direction. It can change the way fish set up. Sunny, cloudy, whether they're on the bottom or suspended. Just so much. And Harris in particular has so much bait right now. Like,
it does.
There are so many shad around that I think that was part of the problem. Just the way the weather had the fish set up and the bait was set up. There was just so much food that it's hard to compete. And honestly, the best we ended up doing was with a lipless when I was yo-yoing it. And I caught a catfish, a largemouth, a white perch. I got 8. Make sure you go to the OneCast Instagram and look at that video about a 6 or 7 pound bass comes up and eats a 9-inch white perch. Of course, I didn't bring my big bait rod because they hadn't been eating it. So I was like, I'm not going to throw it in the boat today. I won't need a big glide bait. And then one comes up and eats a perch right next to the boat. So it's fishawational, as we say, and the changing conditions. But we've been, Trey and I have been able to fish a bunch. Hopefully Ben gets these plastics packaged and he can join us some more. Because we've been on the river, we've been on Harris, we've been to Mayo, we have plans to go try to fish White Lake.
Full disclaimer: this isn't normal. For me to fish this much.
Either.
I'm just in between positions in the Army right now, so I took some time off. But with all the stuff going on in the fishing world, all the bad news and ICast and all the tournaments and stuff. There's time that I take to disconnect from all that. I need to stay up with it, for obviously for the show and for the viewers. But there's times where I just don't want to put my GoPro on my boat. I don't even want to have my phone. And so
that's what was great Saturday, man. When Trey Saturday, when Trey and I went to the river, we never even turned a GoPro on.
Nope.
We just went out there and went fishing.
That's the problem I have.
Yeah.
Over the last year, there are several times I went without my GoPros, and I had some epic days.
Yeah.
The GoPros are bad luck.
I feel that way.
They're almost like a banana on the boat.
They could be.
Hey, listen, shoot your comments at us and let us know. But, we talk about the banana being the bad luck. Dude, I firmly believe the GoPro is the new banana. I believe it is.
I say that as a joke, but my last 2 PBs I've caught on camera.
Yeah.
Right. So
I've had some great days with my dad with 20-pound plus bags on the river with a camera. So
yeah.
Really? I don't know.
But sometimes it just seems like over the last year, every time I would not take the camera out, that's when the big fish would bite. But I caught 24 pounds in 3 hours one night.
Yeah.
Right outside my house.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right out 200 yards from my boat slip.
Yeah.
And I didn't put a single camera.
But you think the day we did the tournament, we had a really good day that day. It took us a little bit, but when we found the fish, when we found the fish, the stretch that we found them on, we caught a fish on our first 6 flips on every tree we caught her. I broke one off or we lost one, but we got bit on and it was bang, bang, bang. We went down that and it was on. So
you're definitely going to want, for those listening to us and watching, you're going to want to watch that simulated tournament because we talk about what's going through our heads, and I think that there's a few guys out there doing a really good job on YouTube and putting that content together. But I think that's one of the things that, like, while you can watch people's videos, you just got to get out there and do it yourself, because everybody's thought process is so different. What you can do is ask for tips and tricks, and we are willing to share some information, like what we think about certain situations. And if you come off the water and you haven't learned anything for the day, that's when I get really frustrated. And going back to the GoPro thing, Ben, I think us as humans, we always try to find something to blame.
Yeah.
You know, so like if we have a camera rolling and we're not catching, we're like, oh, it must be the camera, you know, but that is not the reality. The reality is that
good.
Anecdotally, a lot of times I have turned them off, right? And that's when I set the hook.
Yeah.
And then I got to like turn them on as I'm fighting the fish, right? Yeah. And that happens quite a bit too. But yeah, I mean, it's
just another added thing of pressure, because even if you're not paying attention, it's subconsciously, like, you know, that camera's running and you want to get that awesome footage and have everything set up. Like, I think you just have to get to the point where it's there and you don't care that it's there.
That's true.
It's just there.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of you. That's kind of like with the podcast. Like, we were like, we're just going to sit down and hit record. Like, obviously we've gotten better. We've learned what works, what doesn't work. We're still learning a ton, but we just sat down and we record every week. And if you all listen and like it, you listen and like it. And if you don't, you don't. And we learn. And I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, the best way with the GoPro is to just make sure you're using it every time.
And if you are that aspiring professional, national level professional tournament angler, it is part of your kit now. Like, you have to run a GoPro on every single one of those tours, whether it's the MPFL, BASS, or BPT. So, but yeah, get in the groove of it. We'll push that video out so everyone can see it. We'll do some voiceovers and stuff, and you can kind of see what's going through our head.
That's what's going to be cool. So quite a bit of what we're going to record is going to be Trey and I. We're just going to sit in here and we're going to talk about what we were doing, and then we'll show you some video of some fish catches. We'll talk about why we did this first and what decision went into moving, why we changed what we were doing, what we saw, whether it was something we saw in the water, what it was. Like, it's just going to be us sitting here. So it's not going to be trying to talk over and you're trying to watch us catch a fish. Like, I just want to sit down and talk through the thought process, like what we talked about. And I'm not even going to put the stuff when we were talking on the water about it, I'm not even going to put it in there. Like, we're going to sit in here where it's just what we're focused on and explaining why we did it. We're not saying it's the right way to do it. We're saying it's the way that Trey and I did it. Our thought process is which we were asked for, is our thought process. So apparently some of y'all like to listen to what we have to say or think. But, that was actually, I had a ton of fun doing that. So I'm looking forward to getting that video put together. And I've had a ton of fun just getting out fishing with you guys and chasing around, and Ben and Trey in our boats banging off each other on hairs because we were fishing schools. People probably thought one of us was an a-hole pulling right up on the next guy because we were literally 5 feet apart fishing the schools. And
we did think somebody was going to do that to us, but I guess they were just putting their rocks.
I blocked that dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard me, but I was like, I'm going to go block this guy. And I ran out to the edge of the point because I thought he was going to pull right in on us. But
yeah, it happens more than you think. But
it does, especially on that lake. But yeah, I mean, so look for that video to come out. We've been fishing quite a bit. It's going to slow down here again. Hopefully we'll get out a few evenings after work. Trey and I try to run to Harris. If Ben can get out and come meet us, we'll get out there and chase him. We've been talking about getting back on Jordan. Trey and I have a very much hate relationship with that lake. But I want to get back out there and do some fishing because I've had a lot of success and caught a lot of really good fish on there. It's just,
I was out there 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of luck, but we were camping up there, so I didn't put in till noon. I fished till 5 on a Saturday, right? Not ideal conditions, and we had all that rain, so the water was already 2 feet high, and it came up like almost half a foot when I was out there, and super dirty. So not ideal conditions.
I would say, and I struggle with this. I don't know if you guys do, but if you hate a lake so badly, it's probably the lake you need to be fishing.
Yeah.
It's the lake that is going to challenge you. It's like working out at the gym, and they always say, don't skip leg day. We all work out to our strengths. We don't like to work out to our weaknesses because it makes us feel better.
Don't skip Jordan.
Don't skip Jordan.
Well, I guess I'm good because I've skipped the gym for like 13 years in a row. So I got some time. No, I'm just kidding. It has been since COVID really screwed me up, but I got to get back in there one of these days. But yeah, no. I want to get back out there because I did have a lot of fun catching them offshore there.
Yeah.
It can be a fun lake, but it is frustrating because I feel like those fish are pelagic. Like find them on Tuesday here and you go back Wednesday and there's not even a fish on that brush pile. And it's like, well, where'd they go? Probably where somebody dumped the crawfish, but that's a joke.
Get out there and challenge
get out there and
yourself.
challenge yourself. But that's all we really had for this week, I think.
Yeah.
Ben, Trey, you all got anything you want to add?
No, appreciate everyone supporting us all the way to this point, and share with your family, friends, and like-minded individuals that love to fish.
Before we say it, I do have one thing I want to add. I want to point out we have some new artwork hanging in here that our friend Jeff Christensen sent us. You might have seen, if you're local in North Carolina, the crappie print. It's kind of hard to see if you're watching video because Ben's head's in the way, but it's okay because we have pictures of it on social media. It's a picture of a crappie with a jig in its mouth. We have a largemouth here that's it's got a worm in its mouth. It's like in a river situation jumping out. Really cool. We've got good close-up pictures of them. But Jeff, that one was in the calendar of the crappie a few years ago. The largemouth will be in the calendar in 2024 for North Carolina. So if you're local, make sure you do that. Jeff's an award-winning wildlife artist. He's won a bunch of stuff with his company, Kingfisher Designs. He also does check him out if you're looking for any type of fishing, outdoor-related artwork or things like that, commissioned work, non-commissioned work, the stuff that he already has. If you like these prints, you can buy them there, hang them up in your house. They're really great stuff. So that was all that I wanted to make sure that I had. Make sure we let Jeff know. Trey, you want to say it this week?
Yeah, let's keep fishing and growing the industry one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.